Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Thank you for being with us. This is Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, TV, UBC. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyi Internal. Good Morning Uganda Extra is the show and extension of Good Morning Uganda. I can never forget to remind you that by 6:30, we already hear the Mighty Four with a big team behind the scenes to ensure that we kickstart your morning. So make it a date with us. Every weekday, 6:30, there is so much we always have for you. Actually, you can't afford to miss because it is a full package packed show. Why? You get to know what is happening globally, you get to know what's happening locally, but also there are some light moments, jokes, laughters here and there. So whatever, however boring, stressful, threatening your night could have been, well, we give you a fresh, good start for the day. Now with this extension, this morning I have very interesting people, very unique Ugandans, very unique indeed, because these are people that in my lifetime, I've not lived for so long, neither have I lived for a short time, but I must say in my lifetime, I've never seen interesting people like these ones. It's hard to see Ugandans who are passionate about traveling. You know, in this country, we talk about domestic tourism, you know, we cannot do with foreigners. But here are Ugandans who traveled by road to South Africa, moved through 13 countries, 13 major cities, and a distance of about 22,000 kilometers. Now, have you ever thought of that? Not to look for a job, not to drive to go back where they work, but traveling. There were tourists who had a flag very high, and following them, if you've been following on Twitter, Africa by Road, you would have seen a lot of interesting conversations. Now, what do I have? This is what we are going to be discussing. I have Edward Echaru and Maureen again. I hope I have the right pronunciation of these words, of these names this time round. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. I can say you guys, I last heard you about 5 months back. Yes. If my memory serves me right, I think it was the 22nd of around December there.
Yes.
Yes. But well, you look so fresh.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you. Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning, Chirabo. Pleasure to be back.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
I won't call you Basama. I don't know. I don't know what to call you. Well, Edward, good morning.
Good morning, Chirabo.
How was everything and how are you?
It will take us to sit over a fireplace and we narrate all the stories that we gathered along the journey. But it's a lot, it's enormous.
I was ready to buy the way to fit on top of that defender. To be carried through and also have a unique experience. But, well, I had some work also to do back.
Yes.
But, well, to begin, even I don't know where to start because it's so interesting. Now, first, a person watching us, one thing that comes to their mind is, what drove you people to embark on such a journey? Uganda usually move because there is a job you're going to do, there is someone you're going to see, but neither of these. So what drove you, Edward?
Curiosity. Following our conversation, the first conversation we had here, it's just a lot of curiosity. You just want to know what lies beyond your borders. What is the experience like driving and traveling and seeing your neighbors? What commonalities do we have across our borders? Sometimes we were so comfortable living within our own spaces. We wanted to be a bit vulnerable to see what is beyond our border points. And it was an inquest that none of us, we traveled before, not by road, but it was an inquest that we both wanted answers for. And we came back with the answers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Maureen, this brings me also to get it from you. One would wonder, Ugandans, we rarely travel. Most of the times they'll tell you we are feeding hand to mouth, then they'll have all sorts of excuses. Now, one is asking, what does Maureen do? What does Edward do? That these unique Ugandans had time, maybe had the resources, and had the ability to go and travel.
Well, we are not very different from many Ugandans, I must say. And maybe just to make it very clear, we planned this trip, so we saved for it. I personally do communication work. I'm a communication specialist. I had a full-time job. And we know Edward is a photojournalist, an award-winning photographer. And so something had to give, because no employer will give you 5 months of leave to just go and travel. So we had to first put our careers on hold briefly. We said we'll just take off 6 months to have a break, something that very many people rarely do. People work to their death. And so we saved for it, planned for it over time, and then decided to just go. Yeah, and we are back, so we'll start from there. Yes.
First, I'm going to ask my DMD. 6 months, I go, I also travel, because there is one roaming around Uganda. That one, even if it's between the tires, I must go. Now, Edward,
Yes.
let's begin at looking at this journey, dissecting bit by bit,
Yes.
because we want to look at a number of aspects along the journey. To begin with, how did you start this journey? You know, you're going to South Africa. Just take us a brief. We can't use a Google map, but a Google map within the talk, how you traveled.
We woke up at about 3:30 in the morning, the first day, because that was serial. We had always envisioned this trip, and for it to begin was unbelievable to us even, because we knew there was no way back, there was no turning back. And so we woke up at about 3:30 in the morning, prepared, and by 4 we were on the road. And so when we left Kampala, we went and crossed through Mutukula into Tanzania. That was our first country. From Tanzania.
That at least I regularly do.
Yeah.
My mom comes from Tanzania.
Congratulations.
I usually take that Mutukula border. But sometimes for us border people,
Yes.
we have our various borders. We have our gardens, we have our roots. Because you know, one of the families in Tanzania,
Yes.
so the family is this way in Uganda.
Yes.
And of course you can't think that every day you're going to cross the border.
Yes.
So you get other routes.
You bypass.
You bypass and you're the same people anyway. But
Yes.
let's continue.
Yeah.
And we shall come back to that conversation about border communities
Yeah.
later in the conversation. But so when we crossed into Tanzania, we then proceeded to southern Tanzania, entered Zambia, and from Zambia we spent a couple of weeks there through Livingstone and traveled to Namibia. From Namibia we briefly entered Angola. After Angola, came back to Namibia, and Namibia entered South Africa and went straight to Cape Town. From Cape Town, we now drove around South Africa. As we're driving through South Africa, we went to Lesotho, which is a landlocked country inside South Africa. Spent some days in Lesotho and came back to South Africa, and then accessed Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, and then came back to South Africa, now to Joburg, and then from Joburg went to Pretoria, into Botswana. From Botswana we entered Zimbabwe, and from Zimbabwe we entered Mozambique, and from Mozambique we entered Malawi. Malawi drove up north into Tanzania again, and from Tanzania this time we went to Dar es Salaam, where we didn't pass when we're going. From Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Kenya, and then here we are back in Kampala, Uganda.
Now, you are two people. Let me ask your co-driver. One of the challenges I find sometimes on Entebbe Express is I find a number of people lost. They don't know which direction. This is Uganda. Maureen, stop laughing. This is Uganda. Someone is just lost on Entebbe Express Highway.
Yeah.
Now, how did were you using a Google map? Or did you find these? Because one of the most disturbing things is getting lost along.
Yeah.
You know, when someone hears Edward making it so easy from Tanzania to here, they may think, well, it's like you're going to Ginger. So, co-driver, how did you manage avoiding such?
So it's true, by the way, geography is a very big issue, because we had a challenge in Tanzania where one of our colleagues who was a Tanzanian who was taking us around got lost in his own country. So when you say you get lost on the Northern Bypass, it happens a lot. So we had a mixture of mapping applications. Of course, Google Maps came in handy when we had access to internet. But when we didn't, we had an offline app for overlanders. And that's what we used to guide our movement. Yeah, so not once did we get lost. Yeah.
Now, we go to the people. People, the different cultures. Yes, Africa, one would say we're divided by the white man borders. But what was your experience? For example, someone may think that we are all similar to Tanzania. The first time I went to visit my other side, I thought every Tanzanian speaks Swahili. Only my mother told me, but yes, for us we have Aziba. Swahili, we have our own language. I was like, but mommy said, no, not every Tanzanian speaks Swahili. So let's look at the people, the culture, your experience in that area.
Let me tell you, the continent of Africa is absolutely one continent. We're one community. And we can re-emphasize that. I know Maureen will support me in that. She'll have but we are one. In terms of languages, and I will tell you, Cherabo, when you're to travel to Southern Africa, I would imagine you're a Bantu. If you're to travel to Southern Africa today, it will not take you a while to survive. Actually, it doesn't even have to take you a while to survive because we have a lot of commonalities in terms of food, in terms of language, in terms of generally our cultures are so similar. You go around Southern Africa where we spend the majority of our time, and cattle keeping is a part of every African family's life. And that's a commonality. When you come back to Uganda, every single home has a hen, has a goat, has a pig, has cows, and that's us. That's Africa for you. And in terms of languages, I would prefer Maureen to, because that was one of the, she speaks a lot more Bantu than I do. So there's certain commonalities that we found along the journey that should love to share with us, with the viewers, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I speak quite a number of Ugandan languages and so many Bantu languages, and it was very shocking that when we went to places like Zambia, you hear the Nyanja. There's a tribe called the Nyanja. It's purely Luganda, I can tell you. Things like, things you call like meat, inyama, animals, the naming is the same. We were listening to some, when we were at our campsite, listening to some radio stations, and you just hear and you say, if a Muganda came here, they would survive with ease. And then maybe to talk about food, because I'm quite a foodie. When Edward says that there's so much similarity on the continent, I'll give an example of posho, maize meal. We call it posho here. When you go to Kenya, it's ugali. It's the same maize meal. You go to Zimbabwe, it's sadza. It's the same. Zambia, Malawi, it's nshima. It's the same posho. And everyone is eating it across the continent. You go to things like meat. It's so similar that you just wonder what the borders did to us. Yeah.
Oh, I just remember I was in Zambia, but I never toured because I was sleeping at Taj Pamosi. I was taken for workshop, and of course, workshop, landing, booking, I didn't have so much time to enjoy. But the naming of people, the names, what shook me, that names we have here, they have the same names.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay.
Even places.
Even places.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is Africa, borders. Now, one thing for our viewers, as the guests have shared their experience, we want to implore Ugandans to tour. I know there must be a number of places you went to, and you're the first Ugandans they have ever seen. Yes. Is that so, Edward? They'll tell you, no Ugandans ever come here, maybe for work.
Absolutely. I'll give you one example. When we're entering Lesotho, we entered through this border point, a very small border point, less busy than, say, Busia or Malaba. Really small border point. And we introduced ourselves through our passports. She looked through the passport and said, this is the first time in a while, first of all, I've seen a blue passport. Secondly, this is the first time I'm interacting with Ugandans. Then she said, in fact, I'm not even sure whether Ugandans are entitled to visa-free entry into Lesotho. So please allow me check through my books just to make sure, my money to make sure that you people are entitled to visa-free entry into Lesotho.
Yeah.
And then when she checked, she says, please forgive me, because this is the first time that I've met Ugandans or I've had a Ugandan crossing through this border point. And that's the uniqueness about border crossings by road, because they introduce you to so many people. And that's when you get an opportunity of actually introducing your country, your culture, your people to them as well. Because she was so shocked, but she was also amazed that she could add on to her list of so many people who have crossed through. Imagine a border point, an international border point with South Africa. You'd expect to have so many people cross through. But she said that was the very first time she was meeting Ugandans. And almost all border points that we've passed through and introduced ourselves as Ugandans, we had a range of conversations, because very rarely do you find Africans just travel to explore the continent and travel by road. Airport, it's not a surprise. Like you said, you went to Zambia and nobody asked us, oh, so you're from Uganda? No, it was normal, it is expected.
Yes.
But by road, it's a different experience. And that's where a lot of people have to try and travel by road. It's a very unique experience, and you talked about it from Mutukula. You're in the village, you cross through the small routes because the cultures are almost the same, but you know, you're conscious that you're crossing into another country. And it's different, because when you cross, oftentimes people think when you cross into the other line, there's that anxiety that, you know what, I'm actually not in Uganda anymore. I'm in a different country. And so even those people, the immigration officials would meet, would be so shocked and say, oh my God, I've met a Ugandan. It's the same experience we're having, knowing that, oh, we've crossed into another country. Now we are very conscious in terms of, you know, the road rules, the cultures, the foods, the drinks. You start to notice the little differences comparing it with back home. And for us, that's an education in itself. And so it was quite unique.
It is indeed priceless.
Yes.
Priceless experience. Now, we go to some of the hard cons now. One, issues of customs and immigration. Because I know many Ugandans would love to travel. We shall come to the terrain later. But one of the disturbing issues happens with the differences we have in customs. You people had a car. One of the complications is the car. You know, from one country to the other, you have to do this. So one thing that came to my mind, took you about 4.5 months to travel through 13 countries, driving about 22,000 kilometers. One of the things that was coming to my mind now, how would they deal? You had the Defender, the Range Rover, moving throughout. How did you go over these?
So I'll go first. First of all, when we talk about border crossings, as road travelers, you have two things to keep in mind. You have immigration and customs. For immigration, you're looking at you as individuals clearing in your passports, you know, having those stamps, entry, exit stamps. For customs, you're clearing the car, because there are cars that are cleared for commercial things, maybe they're transporting goods, but we're moving as tourists. So what happened, when we crossed, Mutukula was a very small, easy border. I mean, it was home, we were exiting. So when we entered Tanzania now to cross into Zambia, that's when we had issues. We went to a major border point called Tunduma, Nakonde. It's a very big crossing point. And we actually spent a night at the border because of custom issues.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back. We apologize for that short technical glitch. Thank you so much for being with us. It is Good Morning Uganda Extra. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono with very interesting two people here that traveled from Uganda by road to South Africa through 13 countries, and they made a distance of 22,000 kilometers driving. Now, as tourists, the main aim was to explore, discover the differences, the similarities, come home, tell stories that also will help other Ugandans have the same. You know, there is no price that you can attach to knowledge. There is no price. And of course, help many of us move away from this thinking that this is impossible. You know, we shouldn't leave this to the explorers we study. John Speak, who came by foot, so and Winston Churchill, who named Uganda the Pearl of Africa. You know, we can't do that ourselves. And that is Maureen and of course Edward. Sorry, before I had that technical problem, we were still looking at what the experience was when it comes to customs and immigration, because that is one of the things that you must factor in if you're to embark on such an interesting journey. And Maureen, you still have the pleasure to tell us more of this interesting experience.
Yes, so Chirawa was saying before the technical glitch that for crossing borders, when you look at immigration, it's both as an individual plus the vehicle. Usually as an individual, it's easy because then you walk in, have your passport stamped, and then the issue now comes to the car. So for instance, when we left Uganda, we had that export permit from Uganda Revenue Authority showing that the car is leaving the borders of Uganda. So when we got into Tanzania, you have that importation permit. And so you keep doing that. Leave a country, enter another country, and each country has costs to the car, depending on the tonnage, depending on the fact whether it's a foreign car, and all those attributes around the car. So for most of those, we did payments for some of the countries. You pay for the toll, road toll, some you pay for the what? Road tax. There's so many, all sorts of taxes, and some of them are just embedded into one tax. And then for our own immigration, it's strange, but because we're documenting this travel online, people are asking questions like, do you need to travel with your original logbook? Don't you need visas for all these countries? I can tell you that for the 13 countries we went to, we only needed visas for 3 countries. And of the 3 countries, for the 2 of the countries, we could actually have got visas on arrival if we were flying in. That's Mozambique and Namibia. Mozambique we could also get by road, but with prior invitation. But what we did, we opted to get them prior to the trip so we are not interrupted. So we needed a visa for South Africa, we needed a visa for Mozambique and for Namibia. For the rest of the countries, Ugandans can go without visas. Yes, so that's something very important that people have to know. Oftentimes people are afraid. And then for all those countries, for Kenya, I think Ugandans don't even need a passport to travel there. You can use your national ID. So that's some of the information that people have to know. And yeah, it's very important to know prior to your trip where you need visas and where you don't. We had people sharing on the thread saying that we reached this border point and were turned back because we thought we could get visas on arrival. And yet for some instances the arrival is limited to airports. So we did a lot of research about each of those countries we went to, and we did not have any challenges. Yes. Now,
driving license. That is the defender on the screen. The vehicle the modern explorers used to travel from Uganda to South Africa. But issues of driving licenses and all that, were there a hindrance? Traffic, I know on some countries you use the right, the other time use the left. How did you experience this?
So like Maureen talked about, research is very important before you embark on such a long and tedious trip. We did a lot of research in terms of where, for individual countries, and it involved reading traffic laws for individual countries, It involved knowing, and by traffic laws, obviously you get to know which side of the road do they drive at. Uganda would drive on the left-hand side of the road and overtake on the right. And we'll tell you an experience based on that, that experience, something that we did not find when we were researching. So for all the countries we drove in, we knew beforehand that the left-hand drives. And so it was normal, as in Uganda, so we'd get through easy. In Namibia, we had an experience that you can only be excused being a foreigner. So we entered Namibia. And in Uganda, if you want to overtake, you indicate right, that I would like to overtake, to inform the driver behind and also the driver ahead of you that you would love to overtake or you're overtaking. Now, Tanzania is the same, Zambia the same. We crossed into Namibia and we thought it was the same. So we're always indicating to our right that we'd love to overtake. And overtake or to involve, if we're to tell the driver behind. So, two instances, to tell the driver behind in Uganda that please overtake. You indicate left and say please overtake someone behind you. And so we had that experience in Namibia, that there would be cars behind because we'd be moving slowly, and then indicate to the left and say please overtake. It's clear. Not knowing, we're actually informing him that we are overtaking. So to overtake in Namibia, you indicate left. You get the point. And so literally it was so confusing until a Zimbabwean who had just driven into Namibia stopped, phoned us at a petrol station and said, oh, you people are from Uganda. Oh, it's wonderful to see you people. Oh, there's just something I needed to inform you. And I noticed, because I was driving behind you, that you're indicating for me to overtake. And yet, in Zimbabwe, it means don't. In Zimbabwe, it's the same, but in this country, the left-hand indicator means don't overtake. Overtake. Yes. And you guys, I understand you guys are telling me to overtake, but it's wrong. In this country, it's the opposite. And for us, that took us aback, driving in a foreign country. And that's an offense sometimes, because you can cause an accident. But just generally, in terms of just getting back to the issue of driving permit, our driving permit was valid to drive through all those countries without any issue. It has to be valid. You'll not have any issue. But also we found out Ugandans have the tendencies of duplicating driving permits. And for copies to present to police every time you stopped. And you keep the original back at home. We almost fell in trouble in Namibia. We got stopped at a normal traffic point, checkpoint. We presented our duplicated driving permit. He says you can be arrested in this country for presenting a duplicate driving permit. It's illegal in this, and you will pay a heavy amount of money if you're to present to a traffic police person a duplicate. He was kind enough. He asked us, how long have you been in Namibia? We told him just about a day. He said, no, I'll forgive you because you knew, but please always present your original driving permit. Thankfully, we had carried it. We didn't leave it at home for such incidences. And so our Ugandan driving permit works in those countries. But for any traveler, you can also get what they call an international driving permit. And I'm sure the driving schools in Uganda that can provide that. And that is important, especially for someone who is driving to European countries, would advise that you get an international driving permit. But still legally, even Ugandan driving permit is workable in a lot of these countries. But you have to do research and know which country that driving permit can work. But it was, a brief about driving permit.
Well, in case you're to travel, that is so much that you're learning. It is very possible for you to be a tourist, for you to go and get these experiences that we are sharing. Now, when you move by air, there's so much you miss, definitely.
Yes.
When you move on water, there's so much you miss. And of course, the people you interact with. Maureen,
Yes.
what were they talking about us? Uganda.
That's a very interesting question, because in one of the threads we did online, we shared frequently asked questions by people we met. Number one, when people saw the number plate, they were intrigued. It was so new and so foreign. And for things that looked so obvious to us, like you would look at it, the flag of Uganda on the number plate and know this is Uganda. Many people didn't know. Many people could not tell. I think the one country where people could tell were from Uganda was Lesotho. Nobody guessed wrongly. So what we started doing, we started using our number plate to talk about Uganda. So when people asked, which country is this car from, we'd say the only African country that starts with a U. So just like throw it back at them, find out.
Yeah.
But also we met an interesting couple in Namibia. They were from Switzerland, an elderly couple. And we were having a conversation, and this gentleman was very shocked to find Ugandans. He said he has never met Ugandans traveling. And he said, but you guys even speak proper English. And I can tell you, he was not faking it. He was as honest can be. And we told him, yeah, we have one of the best universities on the continent. It's always ranked among the top 10 in Africa, Makerere University. So we do have universities, yes. We went to school. And then he said, oftentimes when we hear about safaris and tours in Africa, we're thinking of South Africa, I think Egypt, Namibia, you know, because they do the marketing. And what is there in Egypt? It's the pyramids. When you look at the pyramids and look at, for instance, Zimbabwe, there is the great Zimbabwe ruins, almost at the same magnitude of pyramids. But nobody talks about them. We were shocked to find them. So the guy asked us, so what's there to see in Uganda? So we start to talk about all these bird species, the gorillas, the unique features of Uganda. And you know, we're like, what are we not doing right? Because oftentimes when these tourists eventually come to Uganda, they say, why did we waste our money elsewhere when we could see all this in just one go? And then another thing that people are asking is about our history. There are people who still think that Idi Amin is our president. I can tell you for sure. We found a couple, for instance, from the UK when we were driving to Cape Town from Northern Cape. And they were shocked. They were bikers, actually, on a bike. They had been driving for the last 10 months. And they told us, so why are you guys traveling? Don't you have jobs? And then one of them, ignorantly, said, oh, you're running away from Ebola. Because we understand Uganda has Ebola. And we said, yeah, this is what, you know, this kind of communication costs us. So we had to do a lot. We ended up being ambassadors of the country and talking so much the good of the country. And, you know, people thinking that there's still war. LRA is still in Uganda. And we're saying Uganda is one of the safest countries currently on the continent. So there was so much. What currency do you use? What's the unique thing about Uganda? We carried our coffee. Currency. Yes.
And really you've provoked me.
Yes.
Because this is one thing that disturbs me.
Yes.
You know, when you're talking about Africa, how we have different currencies.
Yes.
You know? And when you look at a country, how the dollar is that powerful.
Yes.
You know, you cross Uganda, then Kenya is another currency, then Sudan. But with the East African community, of course, that is one of the areas we are looking at. But you've talked about so much marketing Uganda there.
Yes.
But didn't you meet maybe dignitaries? What else away from moving on road, camping? What else was part of this trip?
I'll tell you one encounter that has remained so bold in our memories, and that is when we met His Excellency, the Ambassador of Uganda to Tanzania, the Ambassador Fred Mwesige. And it was a crash. It was a crash meeting because we happened to be in Dar es Salaam, and somehow we got an appointment with him. He said he was quite busy, but he welcomed us to his office and said, please come in, let's have a quick conversation. I'm curious to know what this is all about. We thought it was always, ambassadors are busy. They're presidents in their respective countries. The president's representatives, it's literally the presidents in those countries. And he accorded us time. We thought we were going to just have a handshake, just a short introduction, and then we're off. 5 minutes maybe, or 10 at most. Guess how long we spent with the ambassador? Over 2 hours in his office. And he sat with us, and he asked us questions and questions and questions. How did you come up with it? What has been your experience? traveling through all these countries by road. You know, the same questions that people ask us. And we inspired him so much. He talked about driving to Malawi. He's also the designated ambassador to Malawi to present his papers. And by driving to Malawi, he's the president of a country driving to another country by road to present his papers to His Excellency, the President of Malawi. We thought that was unique and an inspiration from us as well. And he was intrigued that we could travel through these countries, learn all the experiences, and said, I implore you people, please, when you go back home, encourage Ugandans, especially young Ugandans. Young Ugandans must travel. He says, sometimes I tend to feel young Ugandans are so critical of government, heavily critical of government because they're not exposed. I wish they could travel across Uganda, have all the experiences they could have about Uganda, and then have an informed point of view in terms of roads, in terms of farming, in terms of our tourist attraction. And Uganda, and he said, traveling Uganda is not really about tourism. It's about getting to know the commonalities, the differences in cultures in which we have as a country, and meeting people. He says, please make that as an agenda to try and encourage young Ugandans to travel. But also, this trip we also met the ambassador of Uganda to South Africa, Ambassador Paul Amoru, and he was gracious enough to invite us to the Uganda South Africa Business Summit. We happened to be in South Africa by then. He says, this is a perfect opportunity for you people to come and attend this this summit. And they gave us an opportunity to stand in front of a huge delegate, a delegation of Ugandan businessmen, South African business community, and these are really top of the range. And ministers in South Africa, ministers from Uganda, where we met the Honorable Evelyn Anite, Internal Affairs Minister Honorable Jeje Odongo, and a lot of other executives from Uganda, and they were intrigued that we could do this. And so when they asked us a lot of questions, and who was emceeing? Your boss, Maurice Mugisha,
yes.
who asked us a couple of questions in front of these business executives that tell us what was your experience. The same questions you're asking in terms of visa, in terms of border crossing, and we made it clear. Maureen talked about visa. We made it clear in front of our honorable ministers that some of the core critical issues to encourage inter-travel and mobility around Africa is visas. They need to address it during that summit. And we're told a lot of inroads were made during that summit in terms of visas, visa access. We got to know that a lot of powerful business people from this country did not get visas to South Africa for that business summit, which was so hurtful. And so we made it a point, we put out a call to both the South African ministers and the Ugandan ministers in that summit. And there was no better experience, no one better to tell that story than people who have been traveling by road
for months.
And coming in with real experiences. This is not something you've read in a book or in a newspaper. This was real, and we're still, at that point, we're still traveling. We had about 2 more months to go. So it was real information, and we were told that a lot of inroads were made. And so, but we met also the consulate, Ugandan consulate to Eswatini. Tobias Kamugisha, and he was also very intrigued. He welcomed us to his office. He told us about the culture of Eswatini, his relationship with His Majesty, the King of Eswatini, and how close they are. And imagine that. For us, that was, and also generally told us something about how Eswatini is so small. Everybody knows everybody. Everyone.
Yes.
And we're so intrigued. They said yes. And so these conversations were lifelong. It would stay with us forever. And also how thankful we remained that Uganda has properties in outside countries where we could be welcomed as Ugandans into those spaces. And we cannot thank our ambassadors enough and our country enough for having those properties so that we feel at home whenever we travel. For us, it was really a highlight.
Well, we can take a whole day discussing this experience, because indeed there is so much to learn, so much interesting. So I know people are imagining, of course, with a few pictures on the screen there, what it is like to travel through 13 countries by road, not by plane, neither water, but by road. And also, not just to travel, but with one purpose. You're traveling to get experience, because we've had people travel for maybe jobs, visits, but this was something very unique. And I must say, I don't know if there are many Ugandans who have ever done this. If we had a Uganda book of records, maybe you'd win a page or a sentence or two. But now, what next?
So, before the what next, Chirabo, let me tell you something that was very unique about this trip. We got hosted by strangers. So from our South African leg, we put out a call and say, guys, we have a roof tent. To save on accommodation, we bought a tent and put it on top of the car. And we said, please host us in your compounds. And that changed the whole agenda of the trip, because we got so many invitations. We were even shocked. People we didn't know. I mean, it was a gamble. And they said, please come and I host you. So we got hosted by Ugandans, South Africans, Zimbabweans, all sorts of people. And for us, that was the true spirit of Ubuntu. So what next? We are planning, of course, we just came back. We have to recoup in terms of, our own, health and rest, but also in terms of finances, because it costs a lot of money, I must admit.
That is a question I wanted to ask.
It costs a lot of money. So we are planning a trip around Uganda. And it's a unique trip. It's not the typical trips that people do. Let's tour east, let's tour west, and go to the same typical tourist destinations. We want to map to travel along the map of Uganda and interact with communities that live along these borders. And as a result of attending that South African summit, bits and pieces of it, we got an invitation, the dinner that Edward was referring to, where Maurice Mugisha asked us all these questions. It was an invitation from MTN. And we had an opportunity to meet the CEO, the corporate managers, and told them about our plan to travel around Uganda. And there was an extension, an invitation, please, let's meet, let's discuss, let's see how we can make this happen. And you see, that's what we are calling on for all people who can support this. So that we not only encourage Ugandans to travel, but we document these things. We don't have them written anywhere. We were depending on knowledge of other travelers to find our ways, to find our campsites, to find places to eat, places to do activities. And then when you check Uganda, there's nothing. There's, apart from the typical tourist destinations, there are very good places in this country, but nobody knows they exist. So we want to harness that power of using technology and documentation to encourage very many people to travel. So what's next is a trip around Uganda. We are yet to decide on when.
Well. Trip around Uganda that I can't miss. Hopefully, I'll be part. I think I can fit on the rooftop there.
Yes.
Look at that defender this time around, of course, so that I'm not left behind. But while time is flying so fast, and of course, listening to these stories that are very interesting, real life. Not once there's a hyena, then no, this is real life experience that has been done, modern day explorers, if I may use that, or Ugandan tourists moving throughout Africa. But let me just have your parting shot, Edward.
I have a lot to say, to be honest, because this trip opened our minds, this trip opened our souls, and I can tell you, people need to travel. Because when you travel, you're feeding your mind, your body, with knowledge that many people never get in their lifetime. We have stories that we'll tell to our death. And what's so unique about that is so few people do it. You talked about saying the Guinness Book of Record in Uganda, so to say, in terms of modern exploration. We call upon Ugandans who have traveled to all those countries in one go would love to have a conversation with them if they're there. So you will be finding that could be 1 or 2 or 3 Ugandans probably who have traveled through all these countries that long. And so it's a very unique experience, but it's purely to encourage people to travel, to encourage people to explore beyond their boundaries. It's very important that we feed our minds, we feed our soul with knowledge that would never read in books, but by experience. And it starts with traveling to your village, to the next town, to other towns. Uganda now has so many cities. How many have reached through all those cities? I think that's a challenge for Ugandans. Try and reach all major cities in Uganda and tell us the experience.
And the Lord was so graceful to you, for you're healthy. I don't know how you managed that. You didn't have mechanical breakdowns, but we must leave the set. Let me have your parting shot.
I think for me, I'll just reinforce what Edward said, travel. On this trip, we managed to be part of a very, very, very important cause in Malawi. There was the cyclone Freddy that hit Malawi. And there is a very big Land Rover community in Malawi. So as a way of helping, reaching out and supporting the victims, we joined the Land Rover community of Malawi and went to distribute relief items in one of the remote villages in Malawi. And we went with the area MP. That was something we would have never done if we were not on this trip. And for me, that was one of the most humbling things, in addition to being hosted by strangers. So, as Edward said, I think please travel, because travel makes you vulnerable. Travel makes you less entitled. Travel makes you speak from an informed point of view and not a victim point of view or being blameful. So the only way we can liberate ourselves and emancipate ourselves is to travel and accept and appreciate that we are all different people.
Well, thank you so much. That is Edward, and of course, Marina, I know we can take a whole day, but the program has come to an end. Travel, have a lovely day. See you tomorrow.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president.
This is our family's pride.
This is my friend.
This is the future of our nation.
She is the future of Uganda, and the policies I enact today will protect her from teenage pregnancy.
She is the hope of our community, and I will talk to others about how we must protect her.
She is our family's pride, and I will protect her from child marriage and talk to her about the dangers of teenage pregnancy. We each have a role to play in empowering our teenage girls to protect them from child marriage and pregnancy, because when we empower them, we empower our nation. Protect the girl, save the nation.
Their support meant so much to me. I stayed focused and was protected from child marriage and teenage pregnancy. I will support other girls against child marriage and teenage pregnancy.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sawuti 116. The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number and you send it to her chap chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
This is Chilling. Don't miss a brand new season of Chilling on UBC TV.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president.
This is our family's pride.
This is my friend.
This is the future of our nation.
She is the future of Uganda, and the policies I enact today will protect her from teenage pregnancy.
She is the hope of our community, and I will talk to others about how we must protect her.
She is our family's pride, and I will protect her from child marriage and talk to her about the dangers of teenage pregnancy. We each have a role to play in empowering our teenage girls to protect them from child marriage and pregnancy, because when we empower them, we empower our nation. Protect the girl, save the nation.
Their support meant so much to me. I stayed focused and was protected from child marriage and teenage pregnancy. I will support other girls against child marriage and teenage pregnancy.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sauti 116.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number and you send it to her chap chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
A logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good?
Which is good?
Which is good?
Which is good?
We went to this school, we ran it to Western, we ran it to Northern, we ran, then you come.
Isn't that an achievement? Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night.
So
when people are not counting,
Don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
That's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak Luo.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy.
We are several nations put it together.
Why don't you appreciate that?
What if it fails? I'm happy and he's a good lawyer because Amin is not in power.
The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief, that the beneficiary is doing.
So we look at expenditure, we don't look at revenue, and that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This is Chilling. Don't miss a brand new season of Chilling on UBC TV.
107.3 Kampala, 96.9 Mbale, 95.7 Jinja, 98.6 Soroti. You are all covered.
UBC Mutego.
Yikwa dola wini kune. Awasonga murio. Atekeri na itesa ibija sesi.
UBC Mutego.
Good morning. Good to have your company this lovely Tuesday. It's always a pleasure spending time with you as you choose a national broadcaster. It's a beautiful morning and always special each and every single time when we sit with the ladies, the special ladies, the great brains, very brilliant, hardworking, and inspiring nations, inspiring the community where they live, and not forgetting the boy and the girl child out there. Here we are once again, yet to host and introduce to you our beautiful ladies in the house this lovely Tuesday, talking women in ICT, celebrating women in innovation, women in the health sector, and not forgetting the women who labor each and every single day. Small, medium, and of course others have flourished and they're into big enterprises. To us it works as a nation, having such brains. How can we support them as government and as you, wherever you stay? As a national broadcaster, we're here to celebrate the women in innovation and in all the various sectors. My name is Sandra Kahonde. Well, happy to be here. I'm going to be spending time with Sharon and Stella. Well, I'll let you know just a brief about them. Stella Nassali is a proprietor of X-Era Limited. We're here to get to know what they do. X-Era is a company dealing in production and branding of corporate uniforms, hotel, medical, manufacturing, and school uniform. The company also does branding of corporate gifts and promotional items. She's a project manager by profession with a bias in renewable energy projects, specifically solar. Wow, quite amazing. Sharon Tumusime is an entrepreneur, a business owner and co-founder of Palit. That's the right pronunciation. I'll be getting to know all that information. And it's a woodwork and design company based in Makindi Division, Kampala. And it specializes in making customized furniture for homes, offices, and hospitality spaces. Yes, that's a bit about my panel this morning. Ladies, good to have your company. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. It is great to be here.
Well, we can't wait to listen to your wonderful stories. I'll start with Sharon. Please let the viewer get to know more about you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sandra. It is great to be here. Like I said, it's a privilege and opportunity to be here at UBC this morning. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I am a mother. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a servant of God. And then I'm an entrepreneur. Why do I start like that? Because those are the titles that will never change. These other things keep changing. But you will always be a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, you know, those will probably never change. But aside from that, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a business, several businesses, but today I'm going to talk about Palit. Palit is a woodwork and design house, and we want to create beautiful living, beautiful furniture for everyday living. Really, that's what we like to do. So we customize to suit someone's space and their style, because everyone likes to be different. We don't want to have the same things. And sometimes our spaces are small or big, and the furniture on the market does not accord that. So that's what we do. But I'm also an author. I've written a children's book about the 7 hills of Kampala. Yes, so I'm also an author. I like to say that
very
as
patriotic.
well. Yes, I'm an author. Yes, as well. And I am a member of Worship Harvest. I pastor zone in the Worship Harvest. So that's another thing that I love to do as well. So that's
Sharon is an entire package.
Yes, because, you know.
would love to listen on and on and on.
Yes, yes. We have so much in us. We just do a little bit of it. So.
I know when it comes to a woman, magic hands. So magical.
Yes, so that's Sharon really in a nutshell. Yes.
Stella, tell us about yourself.
Wow, if I can be half the woman Sharon is. Anyway, my name is Stella Nasali Mudola. I'm a married woman with 3 children. I am God-fearing. I am an entrepreneur. I run a company called Xera Limited. Xera deals, like you said, in production and branding of all sorts of uniforms. Anything fabric-based, we make it from scratch. We also make promotional items and any other corporate branding. That's basically what Xera does. So I'm a project manager by profession, like you said, with a bias in renewable energy, specifically solar. That's something that I've done for over 10 years. So while I run Xera Limited, I also consult in that space. That's what I do. I like mentorship. That's something that I like to talk about, because passing on knowledge, I gain a lot from seeing other people thrive, probably as much as I have done or will. Okay. That's true.
Beautiful stories. I'm so excited and happy to be here as well to serve the nation. Patriotic women in business. Each and every single day you're thinking about work, touching lives, and doing something unique and much better, like she puts it. Everyone wants their space a bit different from another. You might not know whether the other person's space is small or big, but you're always out there doing what you're meant to do in your space. How does it sound for you, someone saying women in business? I know way back traditionally we're supposed to be behind the scene and do that other stuff, but at the end of the day it's still work, 24/7 office when you get back home as well. Women in business, what comes to your mind?
Well, for me, before we even go into women in business, let's just talk about women in the workplace. Like you mentioned, there was such a time where we were meant to be home because we are naturally caregivers, and as we should, really. We should be at home, we should take care of the home, we should take care of our children. However, as times have gone by, we've gotten an opportunity to go to school, to interact with people in other communities, to have something to contribute to society. So we cannot go to school to just then sit back at home and continue with the caregiving. There has to be a balance. Yes, the children need us, let us be there. Yes, the homes need us, let us be there. But we also have a lot to contribute to the communities in which we are. I feel like women in the workplace, women in business, if you earn some money, it should be able to go back to your community in one way or another. You should be able to employ people, you should be able to work with other people, and you can only do that if you're in this space.
Well, we'll move on to Sharon.
All right.
Would you love to add thoughts to that?
Yes, a little bit onto that. Business, really, people who are in business are solving problems. When someone is running a business, that business is solving a problem somewhere, and then they're paid for the problem that they're solving. And I believe for women, women are best positioned to run businesses because they're right in the center of problems. Women see problems at a scale that many people might not see, maybe our male counterparts might not see. As you raise your children, as you get ready to send them to school or run a home, you will see problems. As you're in the community with your fellow women, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to see the problems. So I think women are at the center of problems. They see them a lot and experience them. So I believe that women in business is perfect because women are most positioned to see actual problems that they can actually now solve and run what they call a business. Because anyway, women are always solving them, just that people are not paying them for solving these problems. So when they get into them, it's a plus that they are earning now.
For the women, their
for
clock
solving.
is more than the 24/7.
Exactly. Yes, so they are always solving a problem. So when they get into business, they're just doing what they do all the time. Now they're getting paid for it. So women in business,
we shouldn't have complaints coming through the buyers from the male counterparts, like a bit of competition, or taking up their spaces as well.
No, I think women do that all the time, just that they're not paid. But so when they get into business, like she said, in your community, in your workplace, women are always quick with solutions. And many times people are giving solutions, but they're not paid for them. While on the other hand, our counterparts, each time they have a solution, they want to be paid. They'll send you an invoice for it. But women are very generous with their solutions. So if they're being paid for it, why not? Yes.
Well, at some point, do you think maybe with the bias that comes through, or maybe the complaints that come from the male counterparts, do you think is it that at some point we've misused that other opportunity, the opportunity that we have as women to go an extra mile, to get into the workspace as well, and we tend to stand out and be like, yes, we are the best, we're the masterpiece, we are governing. Yeah? You know, is there a moment where we've misused it as women at some point?
I wouldn't like to think that. I think in any case, there's still fewer women out there doing business when you compare to the male counterparts globally. There are still fewer women in the workplace. There are fewer women in the labor space as well. So I don't think that women, it's just that now, you know, you hear more about it. That's why it looks like, oh, it's all about the women. No, it's just that now they're coming up, but they're still, when you look at the figures globally, they're still, the percentage is still a lot lower compared to the males counterpart in globally. So I don't think there's been a misuse. It's just that now it's verbalized. Now women's rights, thankfully, you know, women's rights movement is growing. And so these things are coming out now, and women are getting an advantage.
It's not that it's not that at some point
so. And then
we've overdone it.
There's nothing like a competition. It's not a competition. It's a collaboration. We are all working towards the same thing, trying to make the world a better place.
It's okay for the both of us to have a good paycheck at the end of the day.
It's not a competition. It's never a competition. I don't think so. Yes, it's a narrative that
it is normal for me to be able to solve and get a quicker formula or solution to something. It's okay.
Yes,
it's not that I'm taking up your space.
It's not like I want to become a man, no, or whatever, or to lead or whatever. I'm just trying to do
at the end of the day, I know my space. I am a caregiver.
However, I think I want to throw a spanner in the works and say, what's there not to celebrate, really? Let's brag about it. Here we are coming from a point of nothing. So every win is something for us to celebrate. We have daughters, we have sons. That's not to say that I do not want my sons to do well. Yeah. However, if my daughter is actually winning in what would be, say, a male-dominated space, I must celebrate that, because previously that was a mystery. That was something that was a taboo. It was a no-no. So if there's a win there, it's something that we should celebrate as women. But yes, we are not in competition. We complement each other. If I am married and I'm bringing an extra income and I don't have to ask for, you know, money for hair, or, I mean, if it's given, well and good. But if I can make my contribution in the home, I don't see why my husband should be fighting my wins on this side. in any case, he should be celebrating that, you know, now we have some extra income in the home. I don't have to struggle. And there's such a thing as not putting your eggs in, you know, one basket. So if we have only one breadwinner, then what happens if that's no more? Because life happens. So we complement each other, and that's something that we should celebrate.
Amazing. I love the brains right here. Anything that you need to see change, especially with other women out there, because we are trying to balance and think about the women downtown, uptown, and those in the rural setup. Anything that you'd love to see change for many women to stand out and shine, to enjoy the space, like you say, nurturing the young ones. Even if one has one has boys and girls, you know, there has to be that balance so that each and every one taps into this space. What would you love to see change, or what needs to be done?
I feel like there's what is making maybe our male counterparts be afraid of success of women is maybe we make ourselves also look bad in a way. If, for example, I start earning and I start to earn more than my husband, that should not be something that is now going to make me behave differently from how I've been behaving the whole time. So what I would like to see change is the same way men make money, and they make good money, and they are, you know, providing for their home, and they're doing what they were supposed to do in the first place, is how we should continue to behave. I shouldn't get more money and now I feel like I'm, you know, larger than life, bigger than my husband. Now I can do this, whatever it is that I want. So what I'd like to see change is us changing that narrative completely, that yes, we can make money, we can make good money, and complement whatever it is that we are supporting in our home, be it our children, the community, our spouses. Yes, so I'd like to see us just change that narrative. It shouldn't be that when we make money, we want to step on top of everyone.
I know I can do my hair, so you don't have to touch it. You didn't even make any contribution. You get it. This is my space. I did pay for the rent fees. You know, certain complaints coming through. Sharon, would you love to add your thoughts to that? What would you love to see change?
What I would like to see change, especially in the labor space, we still have a lot more women that are in the level of the unskilled category of laborers and the semi-skilled. We still have fewer professional women out there. So for me, that's something that I would like to see and a change, so that there are fewer down at the unskilled level, although they do most of the work. For example, be it in agriculture, be it in manufacturing, whatever sector it is, the unskilled, there are more women that are unskilled than those who, their counterparts, than the male counterpart. So for me, what I would like to see is probably more skilling for the women, more skilling for women, especially at that level in the different sectors. I know government has already started the journey, but if we could all come in as business people and offer that service to skill those that are unskilled, so that they can improve and do a lot better. You know, technology is there right now and it's moving really fast, and it's sad to see that many of us have still not tapped into the benefits, and we are still using very rudimentary methods in business, even as in the labor market. So for me, that's what I would like to see improve, the skilling, that people become even more skilled, move from unskilled, semi-skilled to really skilled and professional at that level. I know many organizations are already doing it, the UN, the MasterCard Foundation, NSSF, many organizations are coming up, but still we're not having as many women. So a way that we could reach the other ladies, maybe in the rural areas, to skill, I think that would be a really good one.
No excuses, all of us have to tap into the space, the tech space.
Exactly,
not like, or the smartphone, no, I can't really manage. I'll continue with the button phone.
Exactly.
Because the kids might drop it into the water, stuff like that.
Yes.
Everyone has to follow up with the trend.
Yes.
Such women should not have excuses.
Yes. I mean, sometimes it's not really excuses. They're just caught in a position where you're not exposed, you know, until you get the information and the knowledge to do these things. Sometimes you'll be stuck in that position. So for us who already have access to these things, our responsibility is now to go back and bring our counterparts and be part of.
Lift up our sisters' hand, all of us to be on the same platform.
So if you can mentor someone, mentor someone. If you can be in a group where you're teaching whatever it is, financial literacy, information, technology.
All of us should not have such fears of walking into an organization. And the first you see is a woman's face, and like, how do I start? I am in trouble. How do I start explaining myself? You get it? It should be different. We should all embrace each other.
Yes. So for me, that's my plight, that we just.
I love the bit that you talked about other organizations that are coming up, the UN, the MasterCard, such organizations that are embracing innovations and embracing women projects. I love that bit. So when it comes to government, they've also put up so many innovations that embrace women, not forgetting the parish development model.
Exactly, yes. And these days, I believe there's a lot out there that even the government is trying, but maybe we don't have access to the information. So information is not reaching the beneficiary, that would be beneficiary. But also, as women, we shouldn't be afraid to go and approach these places. You know, they make it seem like it's a tower that you can't access. Go out and ask. Exactly. It's quite intimidating to go in those spaces, but be brave, take the limits off, and just go in that space and ask what opportunities are available.
Well, I'll move to you, Stella.
Yes.
With X era, I know it is passion. And getting ahead in life at some bit. I want to know a story behind it, or what inspired you to take that path?
How much time do you have? What inspired me to take that path? Actually, when X era started, that's 8 years ago, I was employed, and I started this side hustle that was born out of a group, a Facebook group. Those days, Facebook groups were big. We were over 2,000 mothers on that group. Actually, that's where I met Sharon. On that group, we only met in the cyberspace. But one time someone came up and said, okay, why don't we have some T-shirts that have this group name, so that when we bump into each other, you know, on the streets, we can, you know, recognize and know that, okay, this is a fellow person in this group. Now, at that time, I was in the solar space fully 100%, and I found myself responding and saying, I'll make the T-shirts.
Out of the blue.
No, I had no idea where to get those T-shirts.
How to start.
I had no idea. And then the biggest problem is I wasn't a fan of your typical round neck T-shirt or, you know, the polo T-shirt. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do something, and this is 2,000 women, I'm very sure most of us don't want to wear the usual round neck T-shirt. Long story short, I got in touch with someone who helped me design something. I have a bit of an art background, and were able to come up with something custom made. So what I really fell in love with at that point is, wait, you can actually create. You don't have to just pick up whatever is on the market and sell it to the client. You can make what the client feels comfortable in. So with that background, just fast forward, here we are now. Right now, we can make anything and everything we create. I'm the creative director at X era. I create designs, I borrow from what is already available. Of course, there's nothing new under the sun. And X era, basically, X means extraordinary. So you're adding something to the ordinary.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. You can't look back. You made the right decision. No regrets whatsoever.
I love it.
And I'm sure you're a role model.
I would like to think. I'd like to think that I'm a role model to some. I mentioned mentorship. Actually, Sharon and I have participated in something called Work for Life, where we do pro bono entrepreneurship training for people who haven't gone so far in terms of their studies. You have brilliant women out there in the slums. They have their small stall selling tomatoes, but then they do not have the basic knowledge on how to run a business. So that's something that we've done in the past, that we continue to do, to pass on knowledge, just package it for them to be able to run their small businesses using these basic entrepreneurship skills. And interestingly, when the elites attend trainings, entrepreneurship trainings, they don't go back and start picking from their notes and saying, oh, what did they teach? And then they are putting it into practice. But those people down there, it's amazing. They take everything and do it, follow it by the book. and you just see them thrive, and they're building houses, and you haven't built yours, you know. So it's just one of those things that I really love to do, just imparting knowledge, just whatever I know, whatever I learn, just pushing it to the next person.
They take time and get back to the notebooks.
They do. It's amazing. And when you follow their story, you're like, okay, how did you go this far? But you're the one who gave me that.
At the end of the day, you're the one. Well, amazing story. We'll get to you, Sharon. Palit itself.
Yes.
Palit. The right pronunciation is Palit.
It depends on where you come from.
And it's good stuff at Palit, yes.
Either way,
it's good stuff.
Yes, Palit, like I mentioned earlier, it's a carpentry workshop, just to make it easier. When I say woodwork,
a woman in carpentry,
someone can say
woodwork.
Someone say woodwork. What's that? It's carpentry. Really, we make furniture. How did it start? Really, a problem that I had. Like I said, business is really solving problems for money. And so for profit. And so I had a challenge. I needed something made. I needed a playhouse for my daughter. And the one on the market was too expensive. And while I was at work, I went on YouTube and I saw a Muzungu making one from pallets. You know, pallets, they come in containers. They usually put cargo on them so that they don't sit on the container bed. So usually they're all over the place, really. Many of us put our fridges and cookers on those pallets. So anyway, I saw a video where he was using them. At that time, I was working in a shipping company, and so we had access to these pallets. And using the video, I got pallets from a client of ours and took them to a carpenter near our place of work and told him to make for me the playhouse. Of course, it was something new to him, so I had to show him the YouTube video, and together we created our very first piece, which was a playhouse for my daughter. It was beautiful. It was red, yellow, it had blue on it. It was really beautiful. And from there on, I shared it with a friend of mine who I used to work with. He's my business partner currently. And he shared it with a friend of his, and then we started getting orders from then on. And yeah, here we are today, 5 years later. Yes, so what we do, we customize. We like to customize. Like I said, everyone's space is different. We don't want to have the same things as everybody else. But sometimes when you want to get a quick piece of furniture, sometimes what's on the market does not suit your taste, or it's too big. You want a coffee table, but your sitting room is a bit smaller. So the one that's in the market is too big. So we customize to fit your space. So that's what we do. But we do this for homes, for residential clients. We do it for commercial offices. We do it for hospitality spaces. Those are travel lodges, hotels, boutique hotels, restaurants, you know, all those spaces. So we do that as well. So that's what we do.
I am sure someone is listening and watching you would love to visit you quick.
Yes.
And have a feel of what you're talking about, what the ladies are saying right here. If you've just joined us, it's a beautiful episode that we're having as we continue to celebrate women in ICT, women in health, women in each and every field, women in labor, women in small, medium, all those particular enterprises that you can think about. That is what we're doing as a national broadcaster. And today on the program, I'm having Stella, and I'm also Stella from X Era, and I am having Sharon from Palit. Interesting stories right here. I know it's never a bed of roses. You might look at the ladies and you're like, seems that from well-to-do families, maybe they had an inheritance somewhere, maybe they had to save some money, you know, they had contacts, Gambano, someone knows them, those things that are running through your mind. You never know. I want to hear some of the challenges that you've gone through to make it. I know you didn't just wake up to start. Someone would be like, it's an empire for her. She's already, I mean, she has a lot. She has made it through. You get it. Maybe she went to a good school. She had all the money at her disposal, and she's qualified to do it. She's uptown. I want someone to know that it's never a bed of roses. What's that up with you, Stella?
Certainly not a bed of roses. Starting out, I will tell you that I was a go-between. I was a broker. I had no machinery. I had nothing that would do what I had set out to do. And at the time, it was only T-shirts. So basically, what I had was my brain. I knew where to get what. I knew who wanted it. What school contributed to? Well, I went to many schools. It contributed to my network. My previous jobs contributed to building my network. And naturally, as a natural networker, I I mean, I easily draw people in, I easily get into spaces and interact. So that's what I had, a customer base that was ready. I had people who could do the things. So I had nothing. All that was there is for me to put these two together. And that was the business. So over time, I grew to buy, you know, the first small machine, to the next, to employing, because we all start out as, it's just you, right? To employing people from 1 to 3 to now we're talking 12 permanent and over 30 temporary employees. So it's never a bed of roses. Some of the challenges that I have encountered, of course, human resources, as human beings, we're not very simple because we are different. So just learning how to interact with people from different walks of life, seeing how to manage them, seeing how to work with them, some things working out, some things not working out. Employees being not so skilled even though you would expect, because we are basically employing maybe say graduates, you would expect certain things of a graduate, yet not. So just having to go through those different challenges of, okay, you've spent 6 months training, nothing is happening, but in so doing, so many losses being created from mistakes, and you're training someone who you would think would know something as basic as, let's say, Excel, but all those are just assumptions. Now you have to come down and understand and say, okay, fine. We are from different walks of life. We understand differently. This person is really fast, this one is not. How do I get the best out of the human resources? You know, things like understanding tax issues and trying to work around them and trying to work with URA. Things like just basically even the balancing. I mean, we are talking about women in business, women in labor. The balancing of your responsibilities outside the work. As an entrepreneur, you actually put in more time. You would expect that when you're employed is when you put more time in work. No, as an entrepreneur, the buck falls on you. So if you sleep, it sleeps. The business sleeps. If your systems are not right, it's all on you. So how do you balance the work and work-life balance generally? That has always been the question, I think, for many. But it remains a challenge. However, over time, doing the same thing over and over again, you get to learn. You get to go through the mistakes, then you get to do it better each day. So that's basically, that's what I can share.
Hey, okay, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn right there. I'll move to you, Sharon. Yes, it's never a bed of roses as much as we would love it. We would want to have the capital, the investment, the space itself, you know. She talks about the taxes and then of course support from family and friends and things like that. Maybe at the end of the day others will turn out to be envious. You know how it is. You share your ideas and someone takes on your idea, and before you know it they're already putting it into practice or consideration because they might have the resources. So how has it been like for you?
Thank you very much, Sandra. I mean, not to repeat what Stella has said, but yes, business is very challenging. It is a very challenging space, but it is very fulfilling. There is nothing like seeing where you were 5 years ago and where you are in this moment. It's quite fulfilling. And then the opportunity to, of course, contribute to employment, which is very high, unemployment, which is very high right now. So in as much as we are going to say all the challenges that someone is going to face, you need to know that it's quite fulfilling, and it's an opportunity for you to contribute to your to the community by offering employment. So back to me and the challenges that I faced. Of course, I get into a carpentry business. My training is social work, and I have been working in a logistics company. So as you might know, I have no clue about making furniture. So it was a very steep learning curve. So I had to learn everything, and I'm still learning. It's not that I'm now an expert. I'm still learning. And because I wasn't the technical person that is actually cutting the timber or whatever, I have to rely on other people to do it. And that's where the challenge that Stella was talking about, the labor force. I think everyone has complained about a carpenter at a certain point. Yes, if you've complained about a carpenter, I work with them every day. So unskilled, they're skilled, they're very good, very talented, but their mindset needs a total overhaul. So that has been the biggest challenge. The turnover is very high for people that own carpentry workshops. One day they show up, one day they don't show up, because there are few and far between that are good. And then there are very few. So for me, the biggest challenge has been the labor. The labor has been one of the biggest challenges, because if he's not there, nothing can go on. It's a very key factor in there. That's where the technology comes in. If you have, 3D printers that print furniture, then maybe you just don't need someone. You can be able to, print out your furniture. But we are still in that level where we still need them to do the actual joinery to release a piece of furniture. So that has been the biggest challenge that for me I have faced. But then there is a big one of capital. Carpentry business is very labor intensive. It's the easiest to start, but you need a lot of capital to scale it. That's why you see there are so many roadside carpentry businesses. You can start a carpentry business this afternoon, but for you to scale it, you need a lot of capital to go to the next level because of the capital investment that is needed. So that has been a big challenge, but nonetheless, with the organic growth, opportunities for partnerships, that has been how we have been able to deal with them. But that said, yes, of course, there's URA. You need a lot of knowledge as you get into business. Many times we dive into business and you think you don't have any responsibilities. But please, from the get-go, understand your implications and obligations as a business owner. It saves you a lot of the headache. So when you see URA saying there's a tax talk, there is something, even if you haven't started business, please listen in, because it will save you a much bigger headache. But that said and done, all the problems in business have a solution, and the solution rests with people. So we've been lucky and fortunate to be part of networks. Personally, I know so many people now. When I had just started business, I didn't know people in my industry or where to start from. But I've been fortunate to be part of something called BNI, Business Network International, a group of people that meet intentionally to refer each other for business. Some of them have been in business 1 year, others have been in business 15 plus years, 20 years. So you get an opportunity to learn from these people, how they have been able to deal with some of these problems. So you're not walking the journey alone, because the entrepreneurial journey is very lonely. It's very lonely. There are long nights, long days, and sometimes no money in the bank. So yes, but the solutions exist nonetheless.
And there's no money in the bank,
yes.
And then you have loans to pay, and you're running around with the carpenter.
Yes. So that's the part I have tried to avoid, the loan business, really. I've been advised that, man,
the
keep
loan
away
business,
from them as much as possible.
Because other people tend to think, because I'm yet to start, it's easier for me to get a quick loan. Let me try to use a quick loan to start the business.
Yes, if you can get from your friends, that's easier. Otherwise, the other loans that we are talking about, it's another
you rather
story.
be patient.
Yes, be patient and organically grow your business. That's my advice. Yes, another person might say she's lying, but keep away. Yes.
Well, we love the fact that the women look beautiful, amazing, well put. Yes, much as there's too much hard work out there. Well, through the stories and through the inspiration and the experience that you have, the level of knowledge, the networking that you talked about, certain things you've learned along the way, how have they built you? Like you said, the networking, meeting other people in the same business and carpentry, those that have been there for a year, others have been there for more than 5 or 10 years in the industry. At least you network and listen to their stories and get advice from them. All through it all, as a person, as a company director or a CEO, what are some of those things that you've learned along the way? And how have they impacted your life?
Okay. Well, Sharon spoke of BNI Business Network International. I happen to have joined also a little less than a year. Those networks are very important. Why? Of course, those are people that can directly support your business, buy from you and refer your business. That's a given. However, the emotional support is immense. It's immeasurable. Because as business people, yes, you go through challenges, and some of them are major, to the point where you're getting depressed and you need someone who can understand. Just picture this: you're a new mother and you're having challenges, maybe breastfeeding, and then you're going to someone who is yet to be a mother and you're telling them about these things. They will sympathize with you, but they will not understand because they haven't walked that journey yet. At the point at which they do, that's when they will look back and say, Yeah, I understand you now, but you know, it's too late. It's too late. I needed you then, you understand? So, me being in a space where I can share with like-minded people, I have learned from their experiences. I have used them as my rant cushions. My God, such a day, this and this happened. You know, you have that cushion, and it keeps you sane. Because after that release, you go back to the drawing board, and now you just, you know, restructure and say, okay, where do we go now? And then you move. So it gives you that emotional support that is much needed as a business person. But the other thing that I can point out is growth. As a business, as an individual. Every time you look at someone who is better than you in one way or another, there may be a smaller business, but there's something. Maybe they're running their systems perfectly. They are using systems that you could use in your business. You might be bigger than them, but you don't have this thing. So they help you grow in the sense that they're showing you something that you could use in your business that you had no idea about. So that sharing is very important. Those networks have helped me grow as an individual in such a sense that there's a sense of accountability. Sometimes when we're running these businesses and you're the, in quote, boss, you feel like, yeah, I don't owe anyone an explanation. But every time a fellow business person comes and asks you, okay, so I mean, how much rent are you paying here, isn't it? Then you go back and say, but you know what, I think maybe I need to revisit this. So there's that accountability. Or maybe last time I told this person I'm going to work on firing the other, you know, this person, they are not delivering. And every time they come to visit you, that person is there and you're still complaining about the same person. So they give you that accountability that is much needed because you may not necessarily have it outside that space. That is growth for me.
Wow. You're still thinking about it.
No. I was just
You're thinking about the journey.
No, I'm listening to her and agreeing
like
with all the things she's saying.
I love that segment where she had to mention, like, they look at you and they're like, you're the employer, you're the boss, and you feel at some point you don't owe anyone any explanation. But when you go through, you do have to look through the books.
Yes.
Have an accountability at the end of the day.
Yeah.
How are things with you?
Yes. What I've learned really that someone can take is, for whatever challenge you have, your solution rests with a person. Their solution is with another person. You know, there are no self-made men. Everybody whose story you hear in business, is someone in that story. Yes, there's someone in that story. And so don't be afraid to ask. Many times you think that, you know, I've really messed up. You feel ashamed of where you are as a business. You're like, okay, I told those people that I'm leaving to go and start business, but look at me now, you know. and so you're struggling with that problem. You're not sharing, and yet your solution is with somebody. You're praying, but the answer, God is like, yeah, she's there, ask her. And so that's what I've learned, to be able to ask, especially for someone like me that was used to solving her problems herself very quickly. That's how I was raised. So that's what I've learned, that your solution is with someone else, and you also have the solution to somebody else. Yes, so don't hold back. Give as well, but also ask, and you shall receive. It's a biblical line. That's what the Bible says as well. So learn to ask. Your solution is with another person. And that's what I have learned in BNI, the business network that I am, even in church, in the spaces that we are. They're always telling people, your solution is with somebody. That's what I've learned. And by talking to people, what have I learned is the importance of a vision as a business leader. Many times our businesses don't go where they don't go because of the leader. So if I am thinking small, that business, that's as far as it can go. Your business is the way it is because of you. It's not the government, it's not your neighbor, it's not the competition, it's not God, it's you. Your vision is probably too small. So as far as you can see, that's as far as you can take it, because your legs cannot take you where your mind has not been. So the importance of dreaming big,
back,
yes,
not to drain out.
So make sure you're dreaming big.
Worn out.
Yes, dream big for your business, and don't be afraid. Just keep going, keep the faith. You know, there are no, you know, yes, there are some overnight successes, but businesses that last 100 years or whatever, they've gone through the ranks, they've all experienced these problems, but the difference is they dreamt a lot bigger. Yes.
Okay, there are opportunities that those who are employed might not have. if you stand out and you have your own project or maybe your own space, it's easier for you to bring in your children to also get to learn, and they get to know what mommy does. Have you done it before?
Even maybe before we get into that, I think there's the lie that everybody must start a business, or if you're employed, you're less than the person who is doing a business. Everybody is a business. Even me as a receptionist somewhere, I'm a business. I'm serving customers, internal and external. I'm a leader. I lead myself first before I go to the next stage. So the mindset that if I am not running a business limited, Uganda Limited, then I'm nothing, or I must aspire to that. No. Sometimes you can contribute greatly to something bigger, other than being a small person where I'm running my one-man show for the rest of my life, just me, instead of contributing to someone that can impact over 10,000 people. So first, to demystify that not everybody needs to be in business. Business is not for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be contributing a great deal and changing lives.
I love that.
Just
I have that
by
clarity.
being in the labor market, just by
because we've had
professionalism.
so many judge others.
Exactly.
How long have you been employed? How long have you been working?
No,
you have not started anything for yourself.
No, it's
Are you
not
okay?
That. No, not everybody needs to start a business.
And everyone needs the answers from you.
Yes, although businesses are good, yes, they solve problems, but we don't all have to go and start business. I'm not discouraging, but I'm just talking to that person. You're at your desk and you think, I'm such a failure, I've not even started a business. No, that's not the case that it should be.
Or Stella, would you wake up at one time and go with your daughter to work, or maybe your son?
Definitely, and I've done that countless times. But then if I can just take you back to a time when we were children. We grew up in a time where there were very few options for us. Business was not an option. Actually, I think business was considered a failure. Why? There were particular professions. You were either doctor, engineer, lawyer. I think we even used to play a game, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. I don't know why there was an Indian chief. But
maybe you had the lyrics wrong.
Possible that I have the wrong lyrics. Someone should help me. But what am I saying? We were trained to go into about 4, 5, 6 professions. It was very limited. Starting a business was never an option. It was that if perhaps you fail to do any of these things, that's when
accounting and business.
That's when you can consider the option of starting something. If you went to family functions and they are introducing people, people are introducing themselves. A doctor stood up proud, an engineer stood up proud, a lawyer. And then someone who was operating a shop somewhere would be like, forgive me for using Luganda, I'm doing my own thing of, like, it's nothing. I have
self-employed.
So in the meantime, I'm doing, and I like how that has changed. Why do I take my children to work when the opportunity arises? To show them that these are all options. This is what I'm doing. I'm making money from it. I'm employing people. I am bettering myself through my own business. It is an option. However, I have been employed before. They have been to my workplaces before where I was employed, and they were also seeing me thriving in that place. What Sharon said before, it doesn't mean that all of us should be business owners. However, in whatever it is that you do it with all your might, do it to the best of your ability, and be the winner in it. So people thrive in different spaces. I may thrive as a business owner, someone else may thrive as the administrator, finance and administrator, whatever it is. Just give it your best. So I take the children to work to illustrate that, this is what we do. When mommy wakes up every morning, she comes to work like this. This is how she works with
like,
people.
I want you to take this path. I want you to be like mommy.
So about being like mommy, it is really their choice. What they should be exposed to is different things. Even when they do their internship, they will not do it. They may not do it at X-Era. They may do it somewhere else, and they may prefer to be there, but they know that there's this option, there's that. So that is really up to them. What I am teaching them is hard work.
Wow. Really. Great stuff. I'll move back to you, Sharon. For someone out there who's really been inspired and wants to find you at Palit, where is it located? They really want to stand out and be like you. A word for them before we let you go.
Thank you very much. They don't have to be like me. There's already me, so they be the best version of themselves. But we are located in Makindye, like I mentioned, on Lukuli Road. That's where we are located, but the person can also find us on Instagram. We are there, Palit Uganda, on Twitter, Palit Uganda. You can reach us as well. Follow our handles. If you put Palit Uganda in Google and need to reach the workshop, you can use Google Maps and get to us, Palit Uganda, and we are available. Yes.
Yeah. Can be an extraordinary, can be a much better version of you.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Oh, well, just moving to you, Stella, someone who wants to stand out and like I've really been inspired by her story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm very much available. We are located on Matters Way in Tinda, same road as UNEB. You'll find X Era. The sign is clear. It's the sign that looks tilted, but that's the design because we aim to be unique. And I will be unfair to myself if I don't mention that X Era made both Palit's uniform, X Era uniform.
This is a uniform.
Our uniforms are always unique. It's something that you can wear anywhere. It shouldn't be like, I'm going to work, now my uniform, so I'm removing it, going to the next place. It should be something that you should be able to wear anywhere you go. So that's where we are located. Our online presence, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, X Era Branding. Please send us a message. Yes, we are happy, like I said, to mentor you, to work with you, to share with you. Please come through.
Okay. I am also looking at my outfit. No branding at all. It's very beautiful. Yes. Lady in black.
Yes.
And right there. Wow,
so UBC can give X Era a
yes,
job.
We are waiting.
Yes.
Because we are saying, from when we came walking through, there were no uniforms.
There were no uniforms. And also don't want the usual like round t-shirt.
No.
We want something unique.
That is unique. Last year.
That is.
Yes. That is for last year. Wow.
Yes.
I had a wonderful time, and I believe the viewer out there did also have a great time. I believe there's nothing that is itching that you're leaving behind that we'd love to share.
Yes, we've talked about this, but we can emphasize it further. As women in business, as women in ICT, women in labor, let's pick up our fellow women or anyone else who we can lift up and walk with the journey, because always the fear is, will I make it? We are ordinary people who started in ordinary ways. There was no head start given to us. So we can just take you through our stories. We are not afraid to share our challenges, our successes. So this is something that for us who are in the space, we can continue to go, yes, to hold on to others and lift them up.
Yes, and mine would be that collaboration beats competition every day of the week. So whatever you do, find someone to collaborate with, and that's a bit of what Stella has been saying. If you're someone that is ahead, find someone to pull and mentor along the way. That's important. If you're someone that needs to rise up, find someone and approach them and rise up with them. We're available, I'm available. But above all, keep your faith up there. Keep your faith up there, keep trusting in God. He's got your back. Yes.
Beautiful. For my viewer out there, just a reminder of our guest for that day at the extreme end, as joined by Stella Nasali. She's the proprietor of X Era Limited, a company that deals in production and branding of corporate uniforms, hotel, medical manufacturing, and social uniforms. The company also does branding of corporate gifts and promotional items. That is Stella for you. She's a project manager by profession with a bias in renewable energy projects, specifically solar. Stella is passionate for mentorship, like she has put it, and often volunteers in mentorship programs like Work for Life, Hope Awareness and Literacy Club, among others, to pass on the knowledge. She's also a member of the BNI, a worldwide network platform that enables businesses to interact with the goal of growing each other. And just next to me, that is Sharon Tumusime, who is an entrepreneur, a business owner and co-founder of Palit, a woodwork company based in Makinde Division, Kampala, that specializes in making customized furniture for homes, offices, and hospitality spaces. That is Sharon for you. Palit has been in existence for over 5 years, and she's proud to have furnished several homes and spaces over the last 5 years, and looks forward to entering even more spaces this year on that Palit magic. She's been in business for over 5 years. She's also a member of the BNI. As she was explaining to you, networking is very important. Great minds, great brains for this particular episode. Very special women. They've been an inspiration to us as a national broadcaster this lovely Tuesday. So it was a pleasure to spend time with you. My name is Sandra Kahunda. I was also happy to be here to serve you. Looking forward to spending more time with you. That is tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless you.